Yeah, and that's a nice segue to out of Believe It or Not and into our free agent profile. One of the other markets that's been a little surprisingly quiet. I guess some people are waiting on the La'el Collins thing. Terran Armstead is waiting on what's going on with him. And there's Trent Brown out there. There's a lot of tackles that you would think that would be real quick to come off the shelf, so to speak, that have not. And one such player that is out there at the position is a guy who was recently cut by the Buffalo Bills, and that is Daryl Williams. And Daryl Williams is a guy who, he's kind of in the little bit of a younger Morgan Moses mold a little bit in terms of what this situation would be for the Bengals. Now, what's interesting about Williams is he's been a tackle. There are a lot of things I like about him, a lot of things wherein he is a guy who has played in a lot of high-profile games in terms of postseason games. He played some with the Panthers, played some with the Bills, etc. But you see here 6'6", 330. I say tackle guard because he actually played, I believe it was nine games last year at guard as well as tackle. So he's a tackle by trade, but played a little bit of guard last year. And then here's the pros. He's been pretty steady for the most part throughout his career. You can see there he started 50 of the last 54 games, so he's pretty durable, especially as he got up there in age. He's a cut player, so it doesn't affect the compensatory pick formula for the Bengals going forward. As we know, the Bengals were not awarded picks, so they usually love those. And going forward, that wouldn't affect them. And like I said, I said 9. It was 8 starts at right guard last year. So potential, versatility, the cons. I mean, age sort of. He's 30 right now. Contract is it going to be a rental deal or a lucrative contract that he's going to get? The more he's sitting out there, he just got out of a lucrative deal. So those are some of the things that you look at with him. But this is a guy, John, we've talked about Morgan Moses. We've talked about some of these other, Riley Reifish type of players. This is kind of one of those guys a little bit. And of course, if you get in a pinch at guard or what have you, he can maybe do that a little bit for you since he played there last year. Again, not a, one of those, blockbuster deal type of things, but a guy that you feel like could do a lot, give you some help on that offensive line and give you a veteran presence, another bridge guy, a little bit younger than a Moses, a Reef, that sort of thing, and could help you out right away.
I really don't understand why Buffalo released him, to be honest with you. Like the whole thing that you mentioned, that he played both guard and tackle last year, and I wanted to get clarity on that. And basically, it was they tried to get Spencer Brown, who I believe was either a rookie or second-year player. They tried to get him on the field, and they placed him at right tackle. So they moved Daryl Williams to right guard, which he had prior experience to, I believe, in Carolina, which was his first team. And he ended up going like back and forth throughout the season. And it ended up being pretty decent. Like the PFF grade kind of signifies that. But switching positions on every 2 to 3 weeks like that is just not ideal for anybody. I don't care who you are. Like that's a lot of change. It's a lot of variance there. So I don't really take him getting cut off of that season. I don't put that as like a negative for him. I think you're right. The negatives are he's going to be 30 this year. I think he turns 30 in August. You're probably not signing him to more than 2 years at this point. He might just take another 1-year deal just to get back into the market next year. And the good news for that is he was really good with Buffalo on the 1-year deal, and he turned that into a 3-year deal. Yeah. And then Buffalo released him after just a year. So it's been a lot with him in the past couple of years, but I do think that he's definitely more than capable of being a quality starting right tackle. And I'll go as far as to say if the Bengals don't get La'el Collins, I think that is the pivot right there. I think because there were rumblings last year that if Daryl Williams made it to the open market, he was re-signed by Buffalo before legal tampering began, I think the Bengals would have had interest in him. And I think that was like the reports that were coming out. And it just makes total sense. So if they're waiting on Collins, if it doesn't work into their favor, I don't think that Daryl Williams is garnering a ton of interest right now. If that was the case, he probably would have been signed soon after Morgan Moses went. So I can honestly see Daryl Williams being in stripes if La'el Collins goes someplace else.
Another tidbit that I just in looking at him, I didn't really connect the dots here, but played at Oklahoma, was not there when Joe Mixon was playing, but was there when Samaje Perine was a young player there. So, I mean, if you want to say he's blocked for some of the running backs for the Bengals, et cetera, I mean, there's kind of a weak connecting of the dots there, but there's something there, I suppose. And just a guy that, again, it would be something steady. I don't know if the contract would resemble my assumption that it would probably resemble something that Moses got, maybe a little bit more lucrative because he's a little younger. But like you said, I kind of feel like he got a little screwed by Buffalo because, he kind of did everything they asked him to do, playing interior, I mean, and then he signed this big deal, and then they cut him a year into the deal, and then they go and, spend the money on Von Miller and OJ Howard and these other guys, and he's kind of left out there flailing a little bit. I feel like it would be a solid move for the Bengals at right tackle if the La'el Collins thing doesn't work out, if they feel like maybe things are a little too expensive with some other players out there. This is a good option.
Another parallel here. The last Buffalo Bill offensive lineman who signed a 3-year deal to only get cut like less than a year before then was Quinton Spain.
Mm-hmm.
They played. So Williams got there in 2020. That's the offseason that Spain signed that extension. And then I guess they only played a handful of games before Spain got benched and they're released. But I mean, Spain has to know Daryl Williams, and if that might just be a loose connection, but I'm sure the Bengals can call up Spain if they're still in negotiations with him to bring him back and say, hey, what do you think about Daryl Williams? Would you like to play with him again? Stuff like that. They can get a very personal report on Williams. I don't think there's any coaching connections. Zach Taylor is from Norman, Oklahoma. Like, he grew up an Oklahoma fan, so I'm sure he's got connections with the university and whatnot, but that might be also pushing it a little bit. So there are some loose things with Daryl Williams, but I do believe that there was interest last year. There's that parallel with Quinton Spain, and yeah, I would say that Williams would be on the short list of options they're looking at right tackle right now.
How would you feel if it's about the Bengals offensive line conceivably, if it's Jonah, one of the two rookies from last year, battling it out at left guard, you've got Karras at center, Kappa right guard, and then you have Daryl Williams at right tackle. How much better would you feel on that offensive line as opposed to last year?
Wait, who did you say was the left tackle?
Jonah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said someone else. Yeah, I feel really good about that. Like, I mean, that's at least 4 quality.
I think I said Jonah. Did I not?
Yeah, I thought you said Jonah at left guard. Who was left guard?
No. The rookies battling it out at left guard.
Gotcha.
Deontay Smith and Jackson Carman. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a very realistic prediction right there, and I think fans are going to talk themselves into it when the draft comes around as an improved offensive line. I think that's a fair argument to make. It's definitely a better offensive line than they had going into last season, because last year you had Xavier Suafilo, Jackson Carman, Deontay Smith battling for both guard spots, and this year you only have really 2 of them with a year under their belts, both of them battling for one spot, and the other 4 spots are filled with solid, capable veterans. Like, they were never going to be in a position financially or anything, their mindset, to upgrade the entirety of the offensive line with veteran free agents. That was never going to happen. At least one of these spots were going to be left open for the Jackson Carmans, for the Deontay Smiths to compete and develop at one of those spots. They're just invested too much in Jackson Carman to completely give up on him already. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to give him this year to get one of those spots, and it could be right tackle. They like we said earlier, they could pivot to left guard if Bradley Bozeman or someone like that remains available, and they just see it as too good to pass up, and maybe some of their options at tackle kind of fall through. But I think they're setting themselves up to keep one of the spots open, at least until the draft, for Jackson Carman, Deontay Smith. Hey, guys, get ready. It's going to be you two. You're going to be battling. One of you is probably going to be the starter. We're not going to give up on you yet.
Well, we'll see if the Bengals end up going that route, but the good news is I'm a little surprised at the amount of options potentially at tackle. Yes, a guy that I thought would have been a good fit in Moses is off the table, but I mean, there are still a lot of tackle options out there. I don't know if they're asking for the world and teams just aren't really ready to give all that up. And obviously people are waiting to see what's going on with La'el Collins. Terran Armstead, very talented, but injury issues there. Trent Brown is a guy that's, been up and down, and his, goes back to the Patriots and plays really well. And then, all of that. So there's a lot of question marks with some of these talented guys out there, and I think that's what's kind of stalling teams out. But for a premier position in the NFL, John, the lack of guys being signed there is a little surprising.
Well, the youngest guy is Trent Brown, and he comes with a lot of baggage too. And do you trust him outside New England? Like Terran Armstead, for as good as he is, he's going to be 31 this year, and he's coming off of like knee surgery. So
Yeah.
he will get signed for a lot of money and to be a starter and whatnot. But like he doesn't have a clean resume to him entering free agency either. It's not just the Bengals who prioritize youth and free agency; it's everyone. And with offensive line, especially when you reach 30, 29 years old, your knees aren't where they used to be at that position. So that's just a reason why the value for that is a little bit lower than maybe a lot of people peg it to be, because everybody needs offensive linemen, and specifically the Bengals do. So there's just a premium in their minds about guys who play this position. But if you're not still in the prime of your career, you're not going to get paid like you probably expect them to.
Yeah, well, that's our free agent profile this week. Daryl Williams out there, released recently by Buffalo, and a guy who could man potentially the Bengals right tackle spot for at least the foreseeable future and really kind of bring a nice veteran presence. And another option out there, I know a lot of people are just honed in on the Lael Collins situation, and I guess rightfully so, but let's not forget about this guy. I think this could be a good option for the team in a lot of different respects.